have the pleasure of having the agripreneur extraordinaire, Mr. Malcome Hoover, who's also a veteran and doing a lot of great things in Oregon, the state of Oregon. And we were talking, we go back quite a few years. And I just thought that it would be nice for him to share some of the things that he's doing and successes he's had in obtaining grants and supporting the community, workforce development, etc. So without further ado, Black Future Farms founder, extraordinary brother, Malcome, welcome to the group.
Thank you, Brother James. I appreciate you. I don't know if there's other introductions to go around, if y'all already did it. I'm still getting caught up on my coffee, so you have to excuse me. It's one of those mornings, you know, where you wake up. I usually wake up at like 6 or 6:30, and then I had a phone call to make, and then I fell back asleep. And I woke up at 7:42. I said, "Oh shit, to be on camera."
So. We understand. We're the early birds. We get it. We get it. We're glad you're here.
No, I'm on camera in front of for my day job, which is at Portland Parks and Rec. In addition to farming, I also am a community engagement coordinator. What is my title? Senior Community Engagement Coordinator 2, not a 1, I'm a 2 at Portland Parks and Rec. But yeah, let me think. Introductions. I might talk about myself. I am originally from East Palo Alto, California. I'm gonna let Ashanti in. I'm originally from East Palo Alto, California, which is a small city to the south of San Jose, to the north of San Jose, south of San Francisco, and east of Palo Alto, California. We are literally on the other side of the railroad tracks, on the other side of the freeway, from where Stanford is. Small town, big impact. I was raised there and in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where I attended Philadelphia public schools, came back to California, went back to California to go to college, where I went to UC Santa Cruz, and then also UC Berkeley on a fellowship, a research fellowship. You know, muddled through life for a while, ended up as a young father in the Navy, trying to figure it out. Spent a little time on active duty, more time in the reserves. Came out, muddled through life some more, got into teaching in public service. Basically, my entire career has been in community service and public service. Blah, 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 blah. At the age of 46, I discovered the magic that is cocaine and promptly screwed my life up in very short order. It took me about a year to burn it all down. Everything I had spent the previous 46 years building up took about maybe a year and a half of snorting Oakland's finest cocaine, and tore it all down in short order and was homeless on the streets of Portland, where a friend of mine had me come up here and try to help me figure it out. But, you know, drug addicts can't figure things out. So they can only figure out how to get more drugs. So I tore that up too. Ended up and put myself in a detox, and spent the next 8 months of my life in residential treatment, little under a year, 10 months total actually. And it was beautiful. I have to tell you that I was really, you know, I can make light of it today, but it's very serious. Like, I was suicidal, extremely depressed, and I had really lost my purpose. You know, I had lost my way in the world, and I had become somebody who I was completely foreign to. I didn't even know who I was. I had published a book in 2016. It's called 144 Poems and Essays for God, Love, Truth, Justice, Peace, and Hip Hop. And you can't find it. It's out of print. And you may be able to find it. It's still visible on Amazon, but good luck actually ordering one. yeah, and I just, I was supposed to like break out on the world scene. Sometime during all that, I had become, known as a poet and really love it, but I just was unable to get it together. And anyway, it was bad. So fast forward, I find myself out of residential treatment, got a little job at a nonprofit, the Oregon Food Bank, thank you very much, and was still just very miserable and angry. But there was a Black family farming on a plot of land that the Oregon Food Bank owns. Art and Shantae of Mudbone Growing Farm. I'll put that in the chat because they deserve a lot of credit for helping us figure it out, or helping me figure it out. And I started hanging out there with them because they were, you can Google that and there's all kind of good stuff about them. They were just growing food in community, and they were my kind of people. I'm somebody who, my dad, my entire family is organizers and community-based people. And so I grew up like that. And these are my type of Black folks. They were out there growing food and playing music and having fun. And they were just community for me. So I would go out there and talk to them and hang out, in my hard bottom shoes, trampling all over stuff. And, one day as I'm running my mouth and they're working, the brother Art looked up and he said, "Hey man, we love you, brother. We love you coming out here, but we working." And when you come out here running your mouth, we stop working. So if you want to come out here and hang out with us, you got to do some work. And I was like, "Oh yeah, my bad. Show me what to do." I mean, I remember, I will never forget this because it was a transformational moment in my life. And the brother said, "All right, well, help me weed. This is how you pull one of these spiky weeds out of the soil without tearing your hands up." And so he showed me where to grab it and like literally put his hand over my hand, showed me the right amount of pressure to apply. I pulled this weed out of the soil and my life started getting better. From that moment forward, I started healing. I had always had a garden, mostly. Somebody used to have a lot of houseplants. If you look behind me, you can see this monstera that I'm killing today. It's the humidity. I have to get another humidifier for upstairs. And just, I started healing and feeling better. So I was out there every day. I would go out there and work with them. And pretty soon I was out there like 3 hours out of every day. I was out there just still running my mouth, but they showed me how to weed, and they showed me how to harvest. They showed me how to plant starts. I mean, and were so gentle and just loving of me. I was healing. And so I started spending more and more time with them, out of work. And we became family. And after I left the food bank, I continued hanging out with Art and Shantae, and we started a program where I met James called Boots to Roots, where our local VA had a grant. Well, the National Veterans Administration gave the local Portland, Oregon VA a pass-through grant for us. Didn't turn out well. The VA was a horrible partner. I'm afraid I have to say it. Horrible partner. Horrible. The only thing you have to change about white supremacist America is everything. And there's no aspect of life in America where white supremacy is not present. And when you put money in a situation, when you put a couple $1 million on the table, the money grab happens. And so that happened to us. We were made to look like a minor partner, even though the entire program was something that we structured and created. And the VA, it was just, one day justice will be done. That's all I have to say. I'm gonna continue talking about positive things. Moving forward, I took a master gardener class. I was just thirsty for knowledge and this healing that it brought me, because I really wanted to get to the self in me that I could feel was growing, you know, like a seed. I hate to be corny, but like really there was a seed in me that was growing, and it was like I was becoming this other person, you know. And the more time I spent gardening and farming with Art and Shantae, the better I became. And the more community I found, and the better my life got. I'm gonna get to my slideshow pretty shortly, but yeah, things just got better and better and better. So I got access to a little piece of land over at a park. There's a park here called the Learning Gardens Lab in Southeast Portland. I had a little itty bitty, like 400 square foot spot there where I was growing food. I started at another nonprofit. I was growing food, and I had like a little therapeutic garden for my clients. And through relationship building, there was a program here previously in Oregon called the Beginning Urban Farmers Apprenticeship Program, BUFA. And BUFA, opening up this presentation, BUFA went out of operation a few years ago, and they still had this property available though. So I asked my instructor, who was the leader of BUFA, if I could get access to that land. He said, yeah, sure. You know, what do you want to do with it? I said, well, we want to farm there. He was like, great, say less. And signed it over to us. And it was great. And so we've been there now going into our 4th season at the Learning Gardens Lab. We originally started out with a little over an acre. That original 400 square foot space that I got has now been expanded to 5.5 acres on that site. So it's pretty cool. I'm going to show you my presentation, and let me see if I can get it to act right.
Can we just pause too and see if anyone on the call has any questions or comments before you start?
I'm just running my mouth. Yes.
You're great. It's great. You said a lot. It's really interesting. What an amazing path, you know, and just this really strong testimonial of the power of having your hands in the soil, I think, and having community and people, you know, guide you. So it's been a nice running theme, I think, with a lot of people, even though everyone came at it from different places in their lives. So yeah, does anyone else have anything before he shares his slides or thoughts?
Yeah, please feel free to ask questions about anything.
I'm thinking about people in our area, Southern California, who may be facing similar types of challenges, such as addiction and depression. And I was just wondering, what would you say to them if they're at the beginning of their journey, and even to those that work with those populations, as how to better understand where this type of work, you know, food justice, growing, like Dr. Carey said, putting your hands in the soil. Any suggestions for folks struggling with this addiction?
Yes, sister, I would say the number one thing to that person, if they're struggling, is don't give up on yourself. You know, I had really given up on myself because I had done some things in my addiction that were totally counter to my moral code. And I couldn't believe it was me. And I felt like I actually didn't deserve to be alive, you know? And so I didn't, and I have a very high opinion of myself. I'm gonna tell you, like, I love me. And because I think my parents did a good job, and I think that the world has done a good job of shaping me. And I felt like I have things to contribute, and I love people, and I'm truly committed, especially to Black people. I am truly committed to us making it in this world. And so I felt like I just didn't deserve to be alive. I had destroyed everything that I had ever built up. My kids couldn't stand me. I was broken. And so I would say that to that person who is in a similar position, please don't give up on yourself. Like, you're worthy. My dad told me something long time ago. He said, if you woke up this morning, you deserve to be here, and you're supposed to be here. And you didn't make yourself, so you can't unmake yourself. You know, like that doesn't belong to you. That belongs to, you know, to the Most High. And so, you know, and to people who are working with those people, I would say exercise patience, but it's also on them. You know, you can't save anybody. Art and Shantae were instrumental in me saving myself. They showed up for me at the right time, but I did the work. You know, I went to the meetings. I refused to get loaded. I didn't call a dope man no more. You know, when people offered me, I refused. And, you know, that work has to sit with you. But you cannot give up on yourself. You know, if you wake up, you're supposed to be here. You deserve to be alive. And so you know, and another thing, you know, Black people say is, oh, I'm going through. But the thing is you're going through a thing and you might be in it, but you're not going to stay in it. You know, you're not going to feel in 10 minutes how you feel right now. If you pay attention to your feelings, you know, you might be higher, you might be lower, but you have to go through it. You know, when you're in the valley, you have to look around and see that there's walls and that there's a road or if there's brambles or whatever, but you have to keep going. You cannot stop. I think that's the number one thing is, and do what works, you know, and don't do what don't work. If getting high don't work for you, stop getting high, you know. That's what I had to do.
And what did you feel like when you put your hands in that soil and started
Oh,
dealing with the power of healthy soil, you know, exposure to the sun, you know, can we make a connection between
yes,
those things and better human beings and healthy
yes,
human beings?
absolutely. I mean, I know the
Absolutely.
science is there. I know the science is there that, like, you know, there's something in the soil that activates us. But, you know, for me as somebody who's like a first generation Northerner too, that both sides of my families come from farms. My parents were both born on farms. You know, it's something ancestral. So when I put my hands in the soil, even if I'm just like messing around with my houseplants, there's a connection that's made, you know, and I feel active. I'm activated. You know, the things in me that are most alive come forward. And yeah, when I'm walking around on my farm or I'm just, you know, tending to my plants or any of that, I have a feeling that is unlike any other feeling, any other sensation. And there's a feedback loop. I give and it gives, I receive and it receives, you know, and it's this really loving and positive relationship. Sorry, it's my wife. My wife is in graduate school and she's a big part of my story. And yeah, so I'll get to that.
Thank you. Yeah, it's really interesting. And I'm wondering too, if there are like grant opportunities or projects for kind of, I mean, we've talked with our partner at UC Berkeley about kind of gardening and mental health and trying to do some studies with that. And I think there is some funding, but even looking more specifically with substance addiction and gardening recovery, or I don't know if there are programs that incorporate farming and gardening into recovery programs, or if that's something that you've looked into or if you know about, but I'd be curious to see if, I mean, it's such a huge problem across the entire country. And I know NIH is always looking for alternative approaches to managing substance, from even alcohol, tobacco, you know, and then prescription medications. Everything has been, you know, bombarded on us, from the pharmaceuticals to the streets, everything. So it'd be interesting to see if there were, a way to, what you just experienced, have it be for more people. And of course, as a researcher, be able to document it, you know?
Yeah, I think that there are, one part of our grant with Boots to Roots through the VA was starting a healing garden for vets. You know, I would say that most of us have PTSD just from life, but when you couple that with the traumatic experience that the military can be, you know, it's amplified and multiplied. And so I know that I have it. I know that a lot of my comrades and former, you know, comrades in arms have it, and my shipmates have it. So it's just really common, you know. So we have a healing garden. That healing garden still exists at the VA here in Portland. But the thing about being a dope fiend is, and I use that language like specifically and intentionally, because you're a fiend. Like, you don't think, you're completely driven by impulses and this need. And so you're not thinking critically, and you can't take time to slow down. The pace of the earth and the pace of plants is a total different clock than human beings. And so as a human being, we're like on this 24-hour cycle, and we're worried about minutes, and plants are not worried about minutes. Plants are worried about months and hours, and and seasons. And so you can't. I still like mentor a lot of people, and so I had a young man come, and I gave them all like pumpkin seeds, and we put pumpkin seeds in a pot, and water it twice a week and put it on his lamp and da da da. And so the young man comes to me and he said, "Man, this thing ain't growing." And he had been there like 2 weeks ago. I said, "Bro, I promise you it's growing. Like, I promise you it's in there growing." He said, "It's not." And he kept shaking the pot. And so because the soil was a little loose, he shook it one time, and then the top layer of soil came off. And sure enough, because I had some seeds growing too, he could see the sprout just starting to come out the seed. And he said, "Man," and I watched his face change. He was so angry. He came all the way on an off day that the rest of the group wasn't even there to tell me I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And I had him watering this plant, and he's taking care of it, and nothing is happening. And when he shook that plant and that top layer of soil came off, and that young man looked down, I said, "Bro, look." He looked and he saw that little seed popping out. He got so happy. He was like giddy. And that's a metaphor, right? Like, it's happening. You don't necessarily see it. You're feeding into somebody and you're giving them, nourishment, and you're giving them things they need. And it's not happening at the pace that you want it to, because it's not your clock, it's God's clock, and you don't have determination over God's clock. And so, you just have to keep doing the work. And it was the same with me, and it's the same with everything. If you just keep putting in the work and are diligent and intentional, and your intentions are good, and your actions are, it's repetitious. You got to show up and water and pull weeds and, pay attention to stuff and da da da. And it's not always rewarding, from January, February, March. But then in April, things start to happen, right? In April, I'm in Portland, y'all. So it's, I'm in a northern climate. I'm in 8B. Things start to happen in April. In May, things is jumping. By June, you really at work. June, it's the beginning of your high season. You got too much to deal with, and you keep going. And then in October, things are slowing down. And by November, you put the farm to bed and you getting ready again for next January. It's a real cycle that I've had to learn. And that I'm very grateful for. Yeah, I'd like to share with you my slideshow.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to share my screen. Yep, that's the only one I have. I'll open up my system settings. This is a new computer. Yes, you can do that. Oh no, it has. So I have to quit and reopen. Okay, I'll be right back. Hold on. Sorry.
In the meantime, Dr. Carey, if it's okay, I was scrolling through some research, and I was thinking about an funding opportunity. I'm going to put in the chat for behavioral health services and facilities that the state of California is putting out, like this one-time funding. So I know for our area, there's going to be a Zoom call on, I think it's Thursday. So I'm going to put that in the chat and follow up with that one. If you're available, you should probably jump into because we actually could do a match. Let's make a deal. We could connect with Malcolm and try to get in here in this round. So I'm going to drop this information in the chat. Anyone else here listening in California, do drop in on that. We'll put that up on the website as well. And let Malcolm continue his awesome story.
Yeah, I need permission to share my screen. Or you can make
Ken, can you?
You just have to make me a co-host or whatever.
Yep. 1 second.
Thank you, Ken.
You're welcome.
So good to have technical support.
That's what we're here
Appreciate it.
for.
I love it. I usually have, I'm flying solo today, but one of the beautiful things is this year, we got a grant and we're able to hire staff. So
Nice.
yeah, it was beautiful. We went from 4 of us in our larger organization. There we go. We went from 4 of us in our larger organization, to now we have a staff of 12. We're part of a larger organization called the Black Food Sovereignty Coalition. And BFSC has a total staff of 12. There's 4 directors, 5 full-timers, and 3 contractors.
Wow.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm gonna roll through this presentation real quick so we can have a robust discussion. I can show y'all some pretty pictures and blah, 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 blah. So that dirty chalkboard was in our greenhouse. And this was our first meeting of farmers and stuff that we were thinking about doing. And I like to look at this picture because it really reminds me of how far we came. I mean, it's great. It's great. So I went through all that. What I didn't talk to you about is two key things. We Grow was a part of a grant that we got through Mudbone Grown. We got a NIFA grant to do community organizing in the Black community around food. And we started a little group called We Grow, where we had a community garden in Southeast Portland, or Northeast Portland, sorry. And through those efforts, I met a key player in my story. I met my wife, Mirabai. Mirabai and I were volunteers together and got together around farming. And I would never probably have met her, even though we kind of grew up in the same area in the Bay Area. And at one point when I was doing my fellowship at UC Berkeley, Mirabai was working across the street at Bancroft at the museum. And I probably saw her maybe once or twice because she tells me that she thinks she saw me, but we never made the connection. So here we are in Portland, married, happy, and getting fat. So I love it. It's great. Yeah, so there's kind of my backstory. Here is the plot that we had at, that's the We Grow plot. And then I anticipated having a much different direction. I was going to do a very academic presentation of why farming is so white in Portland, but in Oregon. But this is a question to ask, is why there's so Black farmers in Oregon is because Oregon was started as a white utopia, and there were actually exclusion laws on the books. And there are sundown towns, which meant if it was after 6:30, if you were dark, you had to get out of town. And so this was a very inhospitable environment for Black people to thrive. And then here's our group. I'm sure y'all know about Black disinheritance and Black disenfranchisement in the food system in the United States. But there's a sad statistic, 0.1% of farmland in Oregon is Black owned. Not 1%, y'all, 0.1%. So, it's 10%, a tenth of 1%. I saw something else that said the other day that it might be 0.5, which would be great. That would account for My Black Farm Collective. In this picture, you see starting from your left is a sister, Jamis Quelle. So she started a group, co-founded a group along with Mirabai called the Black Oregon Land Trust. And then there's her husband, Quelle, and their daughter. There's Baba Chuck, who's one of our co-directors. That tall gentleman whose face is probably cut off is Hoban, one of our advisors and farmers. And there's me, and that wonderful lady on the end is Mirabai. There's my wife. And that is at Black Futures. There's another shot from Black Futures when we first got started. Our corn, we had a sweet corn that was particularly suited to grow here in 8B, did really well. Yeah, the caption says what it says. Our farm has really grown. I'm so proud of us. That was our first year. You'll see in some future slides kind of a similar shot. That little shack is gone now. That little shed is the only, well, it's one or two built structures we had on the property. We had that shed in a high tunnel. That shed's now gone. And we have a much larger shed and two high tunnels now. There's Mirabai working the soil. Oh no, that's Eddie, sorry. So Black agriculture and history practice in the US, we're disconnected from the land. Oh, look at that horrible G. Through slavery, sharecropping, and dispossession. My family sharecropped in North Carolina and Tennessee. More in Tennessee, my mom's family were more sharecroppers. They were able, after 2 generations, to buy the land that they sharecropped on, which was adjacent to the plantation that they had been enslaved on. And until 1968 is when my grandmother's children began leaving, or my grandmother and my great-grandmother's children began leaving Tennessee. But until that point, nobody had ever been more than 40 miles away from that plantation where they had been enslaved. So if you can imagine that, from the time that they were introduced to America up until 1968, the entirety of my family had been in that little itty bitty place in Obion County is the name of the county. Tennessee. Reeves is one of the towns there. And so our presence outside of that place is really novel. I think is important for me to say. That was only 54 years ago. So for the previous 250 years, we had been kept in that place. I talked about that earlier. There's another shot at Black Futures. That is a little piece of soil that we call the garbage patch, not because it's not pretty, but because I did a dry farming experiment there our first year, and my wife said this is garbage. And so it kept its name, the garbage patch. I did succeed in growing some okra though. There's another shot at We Grow. This brother in the green shirt is one of our founding farmers, Kwame. He has a farm now called Moorish Roots that is really successful. He's doing great things here in Portland. And there's Jamis and Eddie. And then what does this mean for community systems and foodways? This is really the kind of, I feel like the key of my presentation. The main thing that we do differently here at Black Futures is we're not a capitalist enterprise. You know, we're a nonprofit and we're a community benefit organization. We build together. We hold love at the center of our equation. We love each other. We love our community. We love the work. And so we treat each other like that. We're not here to make money. I actually gave up my salary at Black Futures, 70% of it, to give back to the organization because I got an outside job. And we started Black Futures to create leadership, not just a food hub and a farm, a working farm, but to create a way to bring leadership and advance leadership in our community. And in order to build leaders, other leaders have to get out of the way. So as people come into the organization, I move further away from the center of it and then more towards the periphery, or I would say like deeper down. I'm kind of like bolstering up other younger people. And so my salary enabled us to hire another person, Daniel, who is now our lead farmer. And yeah, it's great. So I make, enough money at parks that I don't have to use also my salary from the farm to support my family. And it's great because I can use that money to then hire other people. This is a shot from our conference. We're doing a conference, it's called Back to the Root. If you email me or you look on our webpage, blackfoodnw.org, there should be some information about it on the site. But we've done 3, we're doing another one in 20, we're doing 2, we're doing another in 2023. COVID interrupted our beautiful progression. But we met at Oregon State University and had just a great day of convenings and workshops and learning. And I really appreciate all these beautiful people coming together and being there with us. If you look in this picture, you'll see some people who are now in the process of becoming famous, like the sister at the bottom from Nurturing Roots Farm, Naima. Naima, I was watching TV the other day and Naima was in a commercial. Yeah, so there's some really great people there. I see a lot of my comrades. There's a brother in the back who has a winery here, Abbey Creek, and good stuff. This is just kind of a picture of our logic model, the stuff that we're working on. So we have a sister who is on our farm who does vermiculture, composting. We are acquiring through one of our grants a couple of electric trucks that we'll be able to use to do food distribution for our CSA. We have a commercial kitchen that we lease. We have for food processing, I'm kind of going through the circle. Marketing, we're not really hype on the marketing. Hasn't really been a big part of our work, but we'll be leaning more into it. And then eventually, I think at the end of 2024, it should be ready. We're going to have a food bus. We own the bus already. We're in the process of revamping it. But we're going to have a mobile food truck that goes around like a farmer's market to feed different communities. That'll be pretty exclusive to people who use SNAP. So I'll be taking the produce to them where they live, housing projects, low income, foster homes is where I'm looking for specifically. Okay, so I'm kind of speeding through this because I like to get to the part where we just talk to each other. Are there any questions at this point? No questions? Okay, cool. Yes, no, maybe so. I see the chat, but I can't look at the.
That's a good question. Just can you be a little more specific about what kind of grants you're getting and
yeah. So we got a Kresge grant. We have a grant from the Collins Foundation. We got a bunch of smaller grants. Like our first grant was a $2,500 grant from the Southeast Uplift Foundation, which is just a small neighborhood group funded, I think, by the city of Portland is where they get their funding from. And they go out and give micro grants to small community groups. You don't even have to be a nonprofit. We got a grant from, I want to say it's the Amazing Foundation, Collins, Kresge. Our
so
major,
like a lot of small foundations and stuff.
A lot of small foundations, you know, $10,000 here, $5,000 there. Equipment grants, Indomitian Sue, who now plays for the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm gonna say that number 74 is a remarkable, beautiful young man who showed up one day, reached out to me over email, showed up one day and says, "Hey man, I would like to be helpful to you. How can I help you?" And I was like, I don't know. I mean, at that point we were, you know, we were growing food and we had a CSA and, you know, I felt like I have to share the shift with you. I've worked in nonprofits for a long time. I've raised probably outside of Black Futures Farm, a couple $1 million in funding over the years, you know, grants here and there. I had a real problem with asking individuals for money. I always felt like, and this is a wealthy person, but also he's Black. And I was like, man, I don't know. You know, just I don't know. I don't know. And my wife later, she was like, are you crazy? You better ask that man for some money. She like Googled him. She like looked at his contracts. She's like, he got signed. He has millions of dollars. You better ask him for some money. So I called him back and I was like, okay, I tell you what, if you could help us get a BCS tractor in a shed, because we keep getting broken into, I would really appreciate that. And so he was like, say less.
Mhm.
And you know, wrote a check and got us that beautiful tough shed that was like a couple $10,000 for the deluxe model that we got. And then also you can't see inside that shed, but there's a great BCS hand tractor. He got us like the maximum BCS with a couple of attachments. And then you see that high tunnel with that raggedy door. He paid us to get that high tunnel rebuilt. He paid to get that high tunnel rebuilt. And it's great because I had an infamous career writing my name on walls all throughout Northern California and maybe in Philadelphia. You might find that name somewhere in Philly if you look high enough in certain places that are masked from the freeway. So, you know, true to form, first thing I did was spray paint all over my high tunnel. Yeah, he paid and when we redid the high tunnel, they used a lot of the same plastic, and so it still maintains that home character. He paid for us to get irrigation, so that was a big part of our kind of boost. Is that Dominican came in and kind of gave us, you know, some funding to kind of dress the farm up a little bit. Shortly after that, we formed an initial partnership. There's a lumber company here called Hampton Lumber, and they gave us all the lumber and a little bit of cash to build what has become our wash pack station. So that structure that you see that's adjacent to our orange shed is now like a great wash pack that's going to have solar panels and stuff on top of it, as well as the shed. We are the recipient of a $1.7 million grant from the Portland Clean Energy Fund. We got a planning grant from them last year for $100,000. And then that rolled over into this $1.7 million grant.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's pretty cool for us. So it's 4 years of funding for us to become a clean energy farm. So we already don't use really any electricity. There's no electricity at the farm. But I had an idea that I wanted to use solar power. And so we're going to put solar panels on that wash pack, the shed. There'll be a row of of just freestanding solar panels. We're going to put a windmill out there and a couple other things, some in-ground cold storage, rainwater reclamation system. There'll be some composting toilets. So it should be pretty cool. In about 4 years, all those things should be built up. And hopefully it won't be obtrusive on the landscape. And we'll have a very cool spot where people can come and see how in an urban farm you can do, you know, a clean energy implementation and, you know, shrink your carbon footprint, and hopefully, you know, just keep this trend going of being in closer partnership with the earth and using what we have. The most abundant resource we have is sunlight. And we do a really piss poor job of harnessing it for our uses. So yeah, there's that. So here's some of our programs. Like I said, we are a parent organization is called Black Food Sovereignty Coalition. And BFSC has a few programs. One of them is called Grandma's Hands, which is a multi-generational Black cooking event, series of Black cooking events, where we have elders in the community take traditional recipes like how do you make your black eyed peas? How do you make gumbo? How do you make collard greens? And then how do you take those recipes and actually make them more healthy? And then those videos will go up on our website. They're actually being kind of edited and polished up right now. And then so they did it live. It was taped. And then we sent out the list of ingredients to all these homes, like 60 homes. And then live, while the grandmas on camera made the food, the people at home, because we did this during COVID, got to make the food as well. And then, so in addition to the produce that was sent out, the raw components, the ingredients, the participants also got a $50 check for every time they participated. So it was pretty cool. Actually, it came in a gift card. So that's one of our programs, Grandma's Hands. RBG Freedom Farm is another farm that we have out on Sauvie's Island. So Portland is it's not a big city, but it sprawls a little bit. And there's an island that is in the city limits called Sauvie's Island. It used to be a dairy farm. It's in the northwest quarter of the city. We have a farm out there, 5.5 acres. It's a demonstration. I'm sorry, 3.5. It's not a demonstration farm. It's a incubation farm. There are 5 families farming out there, 4 now, farming out there presently. The group that you see in the photo is Seven Waters Canoe Family, and they are a group of urban Native Americans, indigenous people who practice canoeing, and I've learned a lot from them. They practice indigenous farming techniques, and they actually build these beautiful giant canoes that they go out on the waterways and practice their indigenous and culture with. And it's great. It's really, really beautiful. While Black Futures Farm is a Black farm, we are Black first, last, and in the middle. RBG Freedom Farm is a BIPOC kind of cooperative experience that is open to all Black, indigenous, and people of color communities. Come Through Black and Indigenous Market is a market that was started by one of our members, and it's a teaching and learning market where we teach the consumers and one another, and it's great. It's just a really great experience. It's held once a month, and people come and shop, and there's Mirabai selling our starts. Those are tomato starts. That was 2 years ago. I know, because we don't use that cloth, and we don't use that tablecloth anymore. Yeah, big fun. And ironically, the person in the hat is now a vermiculture composter, and she wasn't doing that in that picture. She was just getting started, and now she practices vermicomposting and vermiculture at our farm. How about that?
That's cool.
Yeah. This is the Vivian Barnett. This is the inaugural class of the Vivian Barnett Leadership Fellowship, Food Systems Fellowship, where we had food systems people come in and mentor young people who, some of the not so young, who are interested and came up with these projects, and it was great. It was great. Lasted a year. Some of the people in this picture in the back, that gentleman in the shirt who's looking off to the side, that's my mentor, Art, and next to him is his partner, Shantae. And so I have to credit them every single time I talk about farming. I have to talk about Art and Shantae, because without them, I wouldn't be here. And then that lady kneeling in the bottom in the dress is Alicia, the worm person. So a lot of beautiful human beings in this picture. People who are working in close comradeship with us. I talk about this a little bit, holding love at the center. We practice cooperative work. This is not at Black Futures. This is at our first place, We Grow. And then we have shared decision-making. We have a flat governance structure. There's 4 directors, but we really make all of our decisions collaboratively with the larger group. There's the farm stand again at the farmer's market. There's just some stuff we sold. Here is part of our speaker series that we have. We do an online speaker series. We try to do it once a month during the season, where we have people come in and just talk about whatever they want to talk about. So we had this guy, James Cassidy, who is an instructor at OSU. And apparently he was he is a really famous, also rock musician. I forget what group he played for, but he's famous and super entertaining. Yeah, there's our day of service. Boom, 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 boom. Another panel discussion that we were on. Back to the Root, 2019, 2020, and 2023. just some art. We had a person come in and chronicle our voyage during our little conference. There's the notes, and I think that's about it. I'll page through a couple more of these so you can see them, but then I'm going to stop my presentation and we'll get back to talking. Black Futures Farm. Woo, there's our farm crew. There's one of the youth days we had. It was great. There's Daniel with his nose ring, kneeling down, taking a picture. Oh, I have to say this. Our mission is to reconnect Black people to the land through healthy food and community building. So there's one of our Black Sundays is our feature event, kind of, sort of. Every Sunday we gather at the farm, all Black, all day, and just hang out. We feed everybody. Nobody has to do any work. We just hang out, play music, play drums, and eat good food. There's another Black Sunday, another group of beautiful people. La, 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 la. Here's some stuff we do. We donate about 90% of our produce. We send it out. I go out in the truck and just give it to people. We take it to senior homes, to group homes. We donate to 4 different community groups. We started this year formally supporting a pantry around the corner. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. There's the Black and Brown Herb Exchange. That is my garden. That's where I started out. That little spot that you can see is where I first started gardening at the Learning Gardens Lab. So there's me. All right, that's it.
Thank you.
How do I stop this thing?
You have great photos.
Thank you, iPhone. All right, cool. That's it. Let's get back to the good
sharing
stuff.
your slides. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Malcolm?
No, just Malcolm, great job, man. Proud of what you're doing up in Oregon, and I'm gonna have to drop out, but I definitely wanted to say continue to grow for what you know, brother.
Thank you, man. Where are you off to?
Texas.
Enjoy.
Yes, I'll be a few days in Texas. I'll be back on Sunday.
Okay, right on. Watch your back.
Bye, James.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you
Watch your
again.
six in Texas, man.
I know, huh?
Yeah.
James, thank you so much for making the introduction and for having Malcolm here. You've brought together so many amazing people, so thank you. Thank you both.
Yeah, there's even more amazing people. There is Councilwoman Jackson in Tuskegee. There's Alicia Lockhart. There's Dr. Frank. You know, there's more to come. So this.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with amazing people is they also usually know amazing people.
Yes. Absolutely.
So great. Well, safe travels, and we hope to see you next month. I think we're going to be hosting. Who did you recommend from Nebediah Farms in North Carolina?
Yeah, Bernard Singleton.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
So we look forward to that.
Yeah, well, happy holidays, everybody, and stay safe. I hear you loud and clear, Michael.
Thank
Right
you so
on.
very much.
Thank you, James.
You're welcome.
Thank you so very much.
Have a good trip.
Oh, you too, Dr. Frank. Please introduce yourself when you have a chance.
Thank you so very much. My name is Frank Mrema from Alcorn State University. We work with small-scale farmers and train them how to utilize the wood waste from their forest for mushroom production.
Oh, wow.
And Malcolm is a very good success story. The way he has presented it, we have so many people who could benefit from his undertaking, and probably we'll invite him in a Zoom meeting to talk to some of our colleagues, our communities. Thank you so very much, Malcolm.
Anytime. Thank you, Dr. Frank. I appreciate you. I am honored to be asked. I'm happy to be of service. If there's any way that I can be helpful to people, I'm here to partner on things. Yeah, I want to continue to be of service and to continue to grow and learn. And yeah, I'm just really grateful to be able to share the story.
Thank you so very much. I normally tell people, if you have a home, you have a backyard. If you have a backyard, you can have a small garden and have fresh vegetable from your backyard. And if everybody can put his hands dirty, we'll get fresh food from our backyard and stop depending on candy food from Walmart.
That's right. That's right. Nobody has to have that stuff that they call food.
Malcolm, do you have tours of your farm?
We do. Yeah.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, we do. Anybody here, I will put my email in the chat. Yeah, just email me if you're up here in Portland. It's malcolm@blackfutures.farm. Or you can also email our admin person. Sometimes she's better at getting back to people faster because she only has one job. And I have at least two. Yeah. But Regina, absolutely, sister, just reach out to me. And if anybody is, I know, are most of y'all in the Bay or in California, in Northern California?
I'm in Michigan and Detroit.
Oh, the D.
Wow, we do have some different geographies on here for sure.
From Tuskegee, Alabama.
Okay, Tuskegee. I have an uncle in Alabama. He's not that far. He has a farm actually. And I will get you his information if you email me. I'll connect you to him because he has a great farm. He is killing the game.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's killing the game.
Yeah, we've got like Sacramento and then Los Angeles, kind of from California, North Carolina.
Uh-oh.
I'm trying to see if I have
my daddy and them is from Gastonia.
And yeah, part of the reason we start at 8 a.m. is that we've also had guests from Kenya and Brazil. And so trying to really, that's also because of the time change. So
great.
Yeah, and we're hoping to run these panels at least through March and then hopefully continue after that as well. And part of the intention of that is to kind of keep this network growing. And obviously there's lots of organizations and affiliations out there, and not to recreate the wheel, but to still have some type of emergent ongoing discussion and just exchange of people's contacts and information. So it really is really cool to hear your story. And just from, I think you said the first plot was like 400 square feet to 4.5 acres in a couple years. And then even me thinking like that amount of space compared to just 4 to 12 people, and that scale of economy is amazing to see how that management will happen. And I hope that we'll still have this panel, in a year or 2 years and 4 years, and it will be really cool to keep seeing the progress that's happening there.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard for me to believe, when I think about the pace at which we've been moving, my entire career, like I said earlier, has been in community service and public service. And, it takes 3 to 5 years for a community organization to become known. And you start, and then 3 years down the line, people kind of know your name. And then 5 years, you should be grounded, in the community, and your program should be pretty sharpened. And then 10 years, hopefully become an institution. We are 3 years in, 4 year was our 4th season. And we are right at that tipping point. In 2 years, we'll be an institution. And not because of the money, but because of our impact and because of our scope. And I really want people who are working in community to think about how deep your impact is and start to talk more about our impact and not how much money. The money is whatever. Like that almost $2 million next year, this is crazy, but we just applied for a USDA grant, and we applied for $7.4 million I feel like we're going to get it. If we don't get that grant, we're still going to be on pace to be at $5 million by this time next year. And when I think about $5 million, I'm thinking about, okay, how many people can I hire?
Yeah.
You know, like how many jobs is that?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we pay living wage. Everybody who works for us makes at least $25 an hour. That's about to go up to $26.55. Nobody makes more than $5 than anybody else. So, except for our consultants, they're overpaid. And I'm about to change that. It's the truth. It's a real, I looked at our budget the other day and I couldn't believe how much money we pay these people. And I know they don't work harder than me. But, you know, I think about how much everybody has benefits. So if you need health benefits, we pay benefits. That's another $10,000 a year per person. And I think about that. I think about how many people can we help? You know, like how many people can we help pull out of poverty? You know, everybody who works for us has been poor. You know, a lot of us have known homelessness, including myself. And I think about 6.5 years ago, I was homeless, sleeping in parks, you know, and now I work for the parks.
Yeah.
You know, so it's a real blessing. And I think about, we're looking for office space right now. We're all working out of our houses still. And so I just try to be a good steward of that money. And to be, as somebody who's upfront, to try to make sure that I'm representing my organization well, and that the people who trust me and rely on me for their living, if they put their faith in a good person, and my intention is good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think that is really inspiring, and maybe something I needed to hear even for this center, as like we just started off on pilot funding. And I too, like your friend, I'm like, when is this thing gonna grow? You know, it's not growing. How come there aren't more people on the calls or coming to the events? And so when you say 3 to 5 years, it's like, no, it takes a little longer, you know, and the trees that really are established before they fruit, it takes years before you're there. And having it be sustainable, like you said, where you train other people and away from this model of people holding power into their 80s, and then no one else knows how to do what they did. And
That's
you
right.
don't, you know, so
That's
a
right.
lot of that is just really inspiring, because I too am sometimes very impatient with things and frustrated that they're not moving faster. And even with the funding and working with universities, sometimes I feel like the intentions are so just around the budget and the money that we lose track of the science and the impact and the research. And so it's good to just kind of, like you said, just have a greater sense of like diligence, but patience, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And faith, you know, that like so many things, and I can't, everybody's relationship is their own to the Most High, but like, I know for me, my faith has been at the center of, and having faith, period, like not just in like the things, the invisible world, but like the world. Like people are going to see me working. They see what I do. I have to have the basic faith in other human beings that people will then come and invest their time and their belief in this thing that is good for all of us, right? Like, so it's not me, it's the mission. You know, it's not Malcome Hoover, it's Black Futures Farm. It's not Mirbai, it's Black Futures Farm. It's this thing that we invest in that is worthy. And, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, you make it really Black. Well, I have to tell you that the community we are in is not Black. We're in Southeast Portland, it's not Black. And they love us because we support the entire community. A big part of the ethic of Black people in this country has been that we always support the people around us, and it doesn't matter what those people look like. So we feed everybody. You don't have to be Black to get food from Black Futures Farm. You know, we have one day where we don't let anybody else on the farm. That's Black Sunday. So from 10 to 6, that's our time. Y'all can come any other time. We welcome people to the farm, and we welcome people to come and be a part of what we are growing. And I think that our keeping Black people at the center has been integral to our success. And also, I think that just as important as that has been the love that we share with each other. You know, my wife and I are always holding hands, and we bicker in front of people, and we joke, and we are loving with the people who are with us farming. And that love is what propels us forward. And I think that for me, as a community worker, I couldn't do any of this without love, right? Like I have to have a love of the mission of uplifting people, and a love of human beings, and a love of plants and soil and growing things, because you can't do this for the money, you know, like
Super hard work. You
Yeah.
gotta love it.
you have to love it, and you can't pay yourself enough money to love something. You might love that money, but if you don't love that thing, then it's not going to animate you and push you forward. I have to tell this young person who, I don't know, I'm going to assume it's a young person. I have to tell this person, Nicole, that my daughter also spells her name Nichole. So shout out to Nicole, who spells her name the same way my Layla spells her Nicole. Nicole's her middle name. Yeah, I don't really know that I have much else to say, but I have a little bit more time if folks want to ask questions or, you know, anything. I'm happy to do that, or else I can just be done.
Well, Malcolm, I'd like to tell you that when you were talking about pulling up that first weed and your mentor took your hand, that was metaphoric for me, and I could relate to that because I am hopeful and moving forward. I'm actually driven to start a tea farm, and it's intimidating. It's I haven't grown a thing, but I have been studying academically. I think I know, a little bit of something about gardening, but it's not like putting your hands on it. And that just, it gave me inspiration to hear that, you were overcoming your addiction and you were pulling a weed up by the root. So you were pulling the toxins out of yourself too, as well as out of the ground. And I'm telling you, I was just telling my husband, I feel like even though I've not done farming, it's something in me because my parents grew everything everywhere. I just feel something in me that when I get on that land, it's gonna teach me.
It will.
And the right people will come to assist. So I really appreciate James and hello, Dr. Waterman too, for inviting me on this call today. I almost missed it. I actually have another Zoom that I was committed to. And when James reached out to me and said, I think you need to check this out. So I'm really very inspired and looking forward to touring your farm.
Bless you, sister. Thank you for sharing that. That also feeds me. And I tell you that is the truth. You have to follow that thing in you, no matter where it leads you. And that following that thing in you, that thing that tells you to pursue this, is going to take you places. And I promise you this, that you cannot imagine today. If somebody had told me, it's capitalist world. If somebody had told me, hey, Dauphine, check this out. You need to stand up on your own 2 feet. You have to get out of this situation and walk forward, because there are 11 other people who are going to believe in and love you, who want you to help them realize their dreams. And there is a dream that you don't even know that you're dreaming, and you're going to be in a place in your life that you can't see. There's no way I would have believed it. There's just no way. There is no way that I would have believed 6.5 years ago that I would be sitting in this seat. I couldn't see it. I have I'm almost crying, y'all. I have hundreds of books over here to my left. I bought all those books. I'm sitting at a desk. I'm sitting in front of I don't know, $3,000 or $4,000 worth of computer equipment.
Kind of like a Pulp Fiction feeling.
It's crazy. It's surreal. That is the only word I can use. It is a surreal experience, but it's real, and I have to know that it's real. And I'm very grateful and thankful for this. You know, I'm very grateful and thankful that I get to show up every day and be of service and do something that is necessary and needed and valued. And I'm restored. And I was destroyed. So, you know, and I would do it again. To get back to this point, I would do it again. And my life gets better every day. So yeah, chase it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you're fertilizing the dreams of others. So that's a cool thing.
We feed each other.
For sure.
I gotta run. I'm 20 minutes over time. I'm so grateful. Thank you. Just really, I appreciate you. Thank you. It's a great start to my day.
For sure. Yeah, these meetings do have a lot of inspiration. Each month, I'm just amazed by what people are doing from different places. And I know it's like an hour and a half of content. We will post it as a YouTube, and then we're hoping over the next couple months to go through the past years of panels and really pull out some of these very inspirational comments and kind of cut them down. But I also really appreciated how, you know, personal your story was, but also the historical context and some of the stats and just the reminders of these. You know, I know general statistics of the greater US, but not statistics in Oregon. You know, so those things also tie in so much, like where it's relevant, you know, like the history's still with you, even though you're talking about every day getting better. It's like, this is still, you know, active and so important to push forward because.
Oh yeah. The mechanics of white supremacy are alive all the time. And we are fooling ourselves. And it's folly to believe that a system that is spent 1619 of 2022, and I would even say before 1619, I would say that this thing began in the 1200s, that this dynamic of Black exploitation began for Europeans when Portugal figured out that Congo had all this gold. And that dynamic of building success for Europeans on exploitation of Black people and extraction of Black labor, Black intellectual capital, Black cultural capital is literally the foundation of Western supremacy and Western prosperity. Europe was broken and bankrupt before the Crusades or post-Crusades, because they had spent all this money trying to drive the Moors out of Mecca, out of Jerusalem, trying to reclaim Jerusalem for Christianity. And so they engaged in this war that lasted almost a millennium. All their people, everything dropped. It's this crazy thing. And so here we are in this dynamic. I don't know, don't get me talking about Black history, y'all. It's deep, but it's not a new thing. So we have to look at a dynamic that is, you know, almost 1,000 years. We cannot, as intellectuals and thinking people, think that this system that has been so profitable is going to disarm and disassemble itself. It's not going to do it. What we can do, what I am doing and what we are doing is trying to figure out how to survive this shit so that when it falls down, those of us who have invested in taking care of one another can do what we have to do to create something better. But we have to survive this. You know, like they say, when you encounter hostile police, You have to survive the encounter. We have to survive the encounter with this system so that we can build something better for when this thing collapses, because it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You know, like racism is the enemy of life, and it's the enemy of everything. And it's patriarchy is the enemy of life. So we just have to survive it and take care of each other so that we can build something better. You can't thrive under capitalism. You know, it has it's spiritual death to exploit other people. So anyway,
Malcolm,
yeah.
I'd like to share this book. It's by Pete Daniels called Dispossession.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a must read for anybody
Okay.
involved in farming.
I'm
It
order
is
that
a
today.
thorough history.
Thank you. We'll
of
also
what
add it to
happened in-
our resource page.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, I know, I shouldn't get started either. But it's just interesting because now the Congo is like where they take coltan for all the cell phones. So it's still at the center
Absolutely.
of one of the places, and it's the most war-torn, like rough and tough places, you know? I mean,
It's not an accident.
But it's
not an
beautiful
accident.
too. It's lush and, you know, so, well, thank you so much for the inspiration and the dedication to your work. Yeah, stay blessed, everyone. If you have any follow-up questions, let us know. And thank you all for joining from around the US.
Peace and love to all the beautiful people. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. Waterman will be in touch. Please share my email with the email list. I'd like to stay in touch with all of you. I come down to California usually about once every 2 months. So the next time I'm traveling south, I'll make sure I touch base with you.
Definitely. That sounds
Okay.
great. Okay,
Take care. Thank y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.